Meeting, May 9th, 2024. I would like to advise all that this meeting is being broadcast live on Spectrum Channel 180 and on Henry County website. For anyone wishing to speak tonight, a total of 10 minutes will be allowed for anyone wishing to speak in favor of a case and 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. For example, if 10 people wish to speak, they must share the 10-minute slot. For tonight, associated cases that are being presented, a total of 20 minutes will be allowed for anyone wishing to speak in favor or in opposition. At this time, please stand for a welcome and pledge by Mr. Vim.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to accept the agenda?
Make a motion to accept the agenda.
Have a motion,
I'll second.
have a second. All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Staff, do we have any comments or?
Yes, sir. I would like to introduce our newest planner, Ms. Taylor Solomon. She's from the city of East Point. She's a planner 3, so she's joining our team.
Thank you, and welcome. Okay. Anything else, staff?
No, sir. We can proceed.
If not, we'd like to proceed with the first case, please.
VR 2401, Amanda DeSantis of Hampton, Georgia, requests a variance for the property located at 1809 Schofield Drive, Inland Lot 139 of the 6th District. The property consists of 0.508 plus or minus acres, and the request is for relief from the development standards of the Crystal Lake subdivision for rear yard setback requirements. District 5, presented by Heidi Lahut, Planner 1.
Good evening, Chair, board members, and citizens of Henry County. Okay. The item before you is for property located at 1809 Schofield Drive within the Crystal Lake Golf and Country Club subdivision. The request is for a variance to reduce rear yard setbacks from 50 feet to 43.5 feet for the purpose of an enclosed addition. The subject property is shown in your exhibit books and on the overhead projection. This slide shows the aerial view of the property. The current zoning is R3, single-family residence. This is a site plan submitted by the applicant. The property was rezoned as part of a larger request from RA, residential agriculture, to R2, single-family residence on August 19, 2003, with conditions. In 2009, at the time of the adoption of the UODC, those properties that were already zoned R2, single-family residence, that had access to sewer, such as the subject property, were allocated the R3 zoning designation. As mentioned earlier, the request is for a variance to reduce the rear yard setbacks for an enclosed addition to the home. The proposed variance request is for relief from the development standards from the Crystal Lake subdivision to reduce the rear yard setback requirement from 50 feet to 43.5 feet. The final plat for the Crystal Lake Golf and Country Club subdivision specifies a 50 feet rear setback for lots backing up to the golf course. Staff recommends denial of the applicant's request for relief from development standards to reduce the rear yard setback requirement from 50 feet to 43.5 feet. Thank you, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the board have questions for staff? No question. Okay, thank you. If not, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Sir, please state your name and address for the record. Yes,
I don't think it's on.
we'll take care of that.
Okay.
Hold 1 second. Do we have a mic for? Thank you. Try it now, sir.
Hello? Oh,
Yes.
excuse me. Good evening. My name is Reverend Gregory Wayne Smith, and this is my wife Teresa, and we reside at 1809 Schofield Drive, Hampton, Georgia, in the Crystal Lake Golf Community. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Smith, do you have anything to add to staff recommendation or any concerns?
Yes. I've got some photos here I'd like to present.
Okay.
How would I get them on the overhead?
And right there. Will you assist him with that, staff?
Okay, that first picture there, that corner outlines the new room that we're planning to build, and that corner there where I've put the paint indicates what part of the room will be over the variance. So in other words, it's not the whole room because of the way, you remember the diagram, the way that the plot is shaped. That corner is the part that's affected. Next diagram, please. This diagram is to indicate the distance and how far we are from the actual golf tee. We're at the 16th tee box, so those two asterisks there are where the intermediate golfers hit the ball over the lake. So that gives you an idea how far, because I'm standing in front of where the proposed room would be. So I just wanted to give you an idea of space. Next diagram. This, I wanted to indicate, again, the space between our fence and the actual golf course. That bend where the golf cart rides on the pavement, that's where our property line bends and goes down into the lake. So our property actually ends in the lake. And this variance does not affect anyone to the left of us. We talked to both neighbors because the room isn't making the house wider. It's actually just fulfilling the initial project, which I'll show you in a minute. This is when we first moved in and started to build. Right there is near the golf cart path. That gives you an idea of how far, again, I wanted to show you the depth of how far we are from the actual golfers. So we will not impede them at all. And by the way, we have a great relationship with the golf course and the golf course owner, and the HOA has approved everything. This is the view. I wanted to show you this to get, again, you can see the golf carts there. And since we've been in the house, we've done some great improvements. The only time golfers come from their cart over to our fence is to let us know what a beautiful house and a beautiful yard that we've done. We're always out in the yard keeping it together. Thank you. Again, this just kind of, the asterisk in the green to the right, that just, I wanted to indicate where the balls are going. So they'd have to be a pretty bad golfer to hit balls in our yard. We've never had any golf balls. Again, this is further back, just to give you an example of the distance. Next slide. Right there, I'm standing on the bridge that goes over the lake to where the green, where the balls are hit, just to show you depth. This is actually the right side of the home. Everything we've done has been HOA approved. This was done by me and my wife. We did 90% of the work at our home. We rented concrete mixers, and it took us over 10 years to build this, but the second phase, which we told DC Enclosures, and I'll show you what they built for us, was to take that patio completely down and enclose it with a room. So, now, to the left, that's the, that was approved 7 years ago, I'm sorry. And that was built 7 years ago. That's what DC Enclosures built to the left. And the keeping room is in the middle. And the whole idea to make it look whole, because right now, it looks, something's missing. So that's that second part there that will be identical to what's to the left. So when it's finished, you'll see the left will be identical to the right, and then that keeping room will be in the center. Next slide. And this is the last slide, just to highlight again that room and the fact that it's going to be a beautiful room, and it's going to be the end of our project. So after this, no more projects. That's it. We plan to rest. There's a couple of notes that I have here. I already mentioned that we have HOA approval, golf course approves, the distance doesn't impede on the golfers. Our backyard is adjacent to the 16th tee box. It's approximately 157 feet away from where the golfers are. And one last thing, all of the golfers are tend to be regulars, and they always say, we've seen the transformation that you and Mrs. Smith have done over the years. We always see y'all out there, and y'all have done a fantastic job. So we just wanted to give you an idea so you don't think it's some monstrosity that we're building, something's going to look tacky. It's going to look very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Does the board have questions for Mr. Smith?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Mr.
Can we go back to slide number, cancel most of my questions I had, so I have to create some others again. Slide number 6, please. Picture 6. No, I'm sorry, the picture, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, right there?
No, your picture.
Okay.
I looked
Yes.
at the map, and I'm trying to understand, to me, that looks further than 43 and a half feet from where your project is scheduled to be produced. So can you explain to me pictorially here where this 43 and a half feet come to play?
Okay, so that's a great question. When we moved there initially, there was a lot of grass and trees, and it wasn't being taken care of at the golf course because they were primarily concerned with, everything to the left of the golf cart path. So we went to them and said, "Hey, there are a bunch of trees. Do you mind if we cut down the trees?" And they said, "Oh, sure, no problem. Feel free. That's we're not concerned with that space. Whatever will help you." So that's when my wife and I hired some people. We didn't cut down our trees. We hired some folks to cut down. There were a lot of trees, so we cut them down. So then the grass wasn't growing, so we went back to them and asked them, "Hey, what if we, take care of the grass on this side of the golf cart path and beautify that area so it looks beautiful?" And they said, "Hey, once again, we don't mind. We know that that's your property." And they said, "We don't mind at all." So that's when my wife and I ordered 60 pallets of rocks, and we carefully placed down each pallet. We did the walkway, we did the brick. So to answer your question, if you look at where the brick comes around, that area, that's the point that you saw in the other diagram that comes out. So in other words, if there were a straight line,
Yeah, just point to that.
Yeah, on the picture.
oh,
I'm sorry. Where you're speaking.
right here. The line goes like this, and then it comes like this, and then it goes out again right there and goes down. So, had it been a straight line, I mean, when you look at states in the United States, how some of them are shaped funny, they aren't, linear. Had it been a straight line, we wouldn't be here. But that corner part there, right here, is where it's close to our home, and that's the part that breaks that variance from 50 feet to 43 and a half. I have a 6.5-foot wingspan, so we're talking this much space, as opposed to 42-foot long. That's what the room is gonna be. So again, it's just that corner, but if we went to the builder and said, let's stop here, it defeats the purpose. It would not even look right. It would look like the job was half finished. So that's why we humbly requesting you to grant us that extra 6.5 foot.
Thank you.
I hope, did that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Richard?
The staff report has given us a survey plat of your property.
Yes, sir.
And that, if I'm correct, the shaded area is, on that plat is what your addition would encompass. So it looks like that you're just filling in, I guess, the rest of the, structure in the back of the house, is that, with the sunroom?
Yes, that's correct. So that shaded area would mirror what's not shaded to the right, but the existing room to the right. And as you can see out, I can't point to it, but as you can see that point where it says 35.97 and then it bends goes downhill, that point is what makes us break that variance, that point right there. And that point, as you can see, is directly aligned with the corner of the house, corner of the proposed structure. So again, it's not the whole entire structure that's going to be 42 foot long.
I think there was a picture that we saw that showed the back side of the home, and if we could see that again,
No.
to see what you're kind of squaring off.
This one?
All right, so basically you're filling in from, I guess, from below the windows on the second story to the edge of the house, is that right?
That is correct. It will be the same height as the one to the left where it says, where it's circled. It would have obviously a few more windows because it's going to be slightly longer than that. That one's at 38 and a half foot. This one would be 42 foot. So,
Okay, and this is,
and it's going to be even with the home, so it's not going to go past that, the corner of the house where.
all right, and this is going to be a one-story, structure?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, definitely. So,
All right, and
again, it's going to mirror exactly what you're looking at over there. Same color, same roof shingles, same door, same glass knee wall. But what it does, it gives us that much needed space. And that's why we're taking time out
Okay,
to
does your
build.
subdivision have an architectural review committee? Do they have to, look at that?
They did, and they approved it. We had to go through, everything we do, sir, we go through the POAs. Some people say it's HOA, but it's the POA to make sure, because we abide by the letter of the law. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay, if not, you may be seated, sir. At
Okay.
this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Ten minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor. I don't see anyone. You coming up, sir? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leon Washington. I'm a new Henry County resident about a year and a half ago. I'm at 629 Blue Ash Court, McDonough, Georgia. On behalf of the Smiths, I've known the Smiths for quite a long time. I've known Greg since the third grade, and I'm very happy to be out here in Henry County, beautiful county, retired from the airlines. And far as owning my home out here, I was in D.C., bought my house out here, and I'm loving it out here. And I take very pride in keeping my property together, as I just moved in, added a fence in my backyard just last month. The Smiths have come a long way with their house, and I'm very proud of what they've done. And the main thing that when you have a house, that's probably the most important investment that you have. And it's only going to improve, far as the Smiths' argument, it's going to improve the property value within Crystal Lake and also in Henry County and the surrounding. And it makes me happy because I'm maybe about 10 minutes away, but any comps within that particular area is curb appeal is the most important thing, and that's going to improve the property value. And basically what I'm trying to say is that anytime you improve the property value within your county or where you are, that means that you're getting quality people that are going to move in. So the thing that he's doing there, the Smiths are doing, is a wonderful thing, and it just makes it a lot better for the Crystal Lake community and also for the Henry County community that he's taking great pride in to improve his property. And I think that's a wonderful thing. So the more money you put into your property, the better people are going to actually want to move there. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. We have approximately 8 minutes. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay, if not, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. I don't see anyone coming forward. Does the board have additional questions for staff or the applicant? Okay. If not, call the case, please.
VR 2401, Amanda DeSantis of Hampton, Georgia, requests a variance for property located at 1809 Schofield Drive in Land Lot 139 of the 6th District. The property consists of 0.508 plus or minus acres, and the request is for relief from the development standards of the Crystal Lake subdivision for rear yard setback requirements. District 5, presented by Heidi Lyhut, Planner 1.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the VR 2401.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a second by Mr. VM. Any discussion? Yes.
Just to remain consistent with similar variance approvals, staff would like to add 2 conditions to this. We would still need to work out some of that final language, but the language would be akin to any existing structures, any future structures would need to comply with the building setbacks standards as indicated on the site plan dated March 1st, 2024, and that the approval shall be specific only to, rather that approval for the setback reduction shall be limited to that addition.
Okay, let me get it clarity. The approval is limited to that additional only, correct?
Correct. Rather than approve the variance to reduce the setback wholly, it would just be
To that.
a reduction in the setback specifically for that addition as indicated on the site plan.
Understood. Now, Mr. Richard, you have a motion. Would you like to amend your motion?
I would like to amend my motion. I make a motion to approve the variance 2401 that addresses this addition only.
Yep. And staff would work on that language.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have an amendment to the second? Okay, a second by amendment to the second by Mr. VM. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. All right, call the next case, please.
RZ 2309, Bartram ADM Properties LLC of Hampton, Georgia, requests a rezoning request from M1 Light Manufacturing to M2 Heavy Manufacturing for properties located at 160 and 180 Sedgeview Drive and Land Lot 218 of the 6th District. The property consists of 10.066 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a waste transfer station. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 3.
Good evening, Chair, board members, and citizens of Henry County.
Good evening.
The item before you is for property located at 160 and 180 Sedgeview Drive and is shown on the overhead screen and on the projection, as well as your exhibit maps. The property is located within the Liberty Square Industrial Park, approximately 10.066 plus or minus acres, and it is currently zoned M1 Light Manufacturing. It does have a future land use map designation of industrial. This is the survey that was submitted by the applicant showing the two properties as well as that site plan. Here are some comments from various departments, including the Henry County Water Authority, DOT and Transportation Planning and Public Safety. The applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property from M1 Light Manufacturing to M2 Heavy Manufacturing for the purpose of a waste transfer station. Again, future land use map designation is industrial and would support the rezoning request. The rezoning request was determined to be a development of regional impact, a DRI, by the Atlanta Regional Commission. That has completed that DRI process with a notice of decision provided to the county in February of this year. The subject property, a portion of it rather, is, small portion I should say, is located within the Watershed Protection Area Limited Development Area. Now, going back to that DRI process, that requires state review, that requires review and comments from other jurisdictions, that does require review from Georgia, Greta, forgive me, I can't remember the acronym exactly, but it is an extensive state review process that has been completed with that notice of decision. Staff does recommend approval of the applicant's request from rezoning from M1 to M2 for that purpose of the waste transfer station with the conditions shown on the overhead. That is condition 1 regarding a buffer, condition 2 regarding prohibited uses, as well as condition 3 regarding the established truck route restrictions on Amelie Road. Staff felt it important to cover those 3 bases with this recommendation. That is all. Thank you so much, and I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff?
Just a quick question. You did say this was consistent with future land use map, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions for staff? I have one question now. What type waste management are we dealing with?
Yes, so the applicant would be able to further describe some of the exact details, but our understanding of a waste transfer, that would be sort of a sorting facility for waste. The applicant, their current location, which is a little bit further south on Highway 3, that does not take in, general waste, trash bags and things like that. The applicant would be taking in construction materials primarily. Again, I think the applicant would be able to further describe some of their activities.
Okay. And to be clear, it does fall up under the guidelines of the FLUME?
It
Future
does,
land use.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Before you call for those in favor. In favor, the 10 minutes that they share is shared with the applicant as well.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you have the clock on that, correct?
Yes, sir, we're going to clock
Okay,
it.
thank you. All right. Any further questions for staff? If not, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. And just to remind you, based on staff, we're sharing the 10 minutes of in favor with your time, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, board members. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Josh Mahoney. I'm an attorney at Battle Law PC, which is located at 3562 Habersham North Lake in Tucker, Georgia. I'm here this evening to speak on behalf of Bartram ADM Properties LLC, pursuant to the rezoning before you. Joining me this evening is David Bartram. He's here. He could probably help a little bit with those questions about the day-to-day operation.
Okay.
Before I dive in, though, let's take a second to talk about the waste transfer facility, what it is, and really why it is a vital service, especially for a place like Henry County. So essentially what's going on here is when trash trucks are picking up trash all around the county, rather than all of those trucks traveling to a landfill or another disposal facility and leaving the trash there, they instead all go to one centralized point. That's the waste transfer facility. The trash is offloaded there, consolidated, compacted, and then loaded onto a larger truck so that that one truck can take all of the trash to be disposed. So what's happening here is rather than having the trash trucks drive around twice, they're just taking all the trash to the one place so that they can pare down on the amount of trips that those trucks are taking, and so that not all of them are traveling to the landfill or other disposal facility. So again, we are requesting a rezoning from M1 to M2. We're doing that because a waste transfer facility is only allowed in M2 under Henry County's code. So if we want to do this, we have to get the rezoning. So we went ahead and submitted that, and that did go ahead and trigger the DRI process with ARC. The reason that got triggered is because any waste transfer facility automatically triggers the DRI. So when we submitted the application, we started that process immediately. Happy to report that ARC did recommend approval of the plan. So what we're looking at here is this is not the subject property we're talking about. This is Mr. Bartram's currently existing waste transfer facility. It is just south of the subject property. Technically, this is within the boundaries of the city of Hampton. As you can see, the space to operate here is kind of limited. Also, to the north a little bit and to the south, even to the west, you can see that there's some residential development happening here, some established homes, some established developments as well. And so by having the business here, you're mixing those two uses, and traditionally it's not best to have an industrial use right next to or that close to a residential development. And so what we're looking to do is move this business from this location to the subject property. And thankfully, the two properties are pretty close by. The big difference here is that we're going to move away from those residential uses into this industrial park. There's a little pocket of industrially zoned property there where we will be next to other industrial uses so that we'll cut down on any possible disturbances that could go on near the residential uses. So zooming in a little bit here on the subject property itself, you can see the surrounding area to the northwest and immediately to the south. Those are all industrial properties. There's businesses operating there, and they're doing either some sort of trucking. I'm not sure if there's any manufacturing going on or anything like that, but there's definitely some sort of truck storage facility or something like that happening nearby. And so we would not be impacting any residential uses or anything like that. We're coming off of Amelie Road, way back into the backside of that industrial park, far away from the residential uses. This is the zoning map again, so you can just take a look at the zoning. We are zoned M1. There's M1 properties all around us, and there's even M2 up to the north. We're looking to change from this light gray to that dark gray. A couple of you did ask about the future land use map. We do have the industrial future land use designation, which does support the change from M1 to M2. So taking a look at the site plan here, you can see how we would fit onto this property. We are talking about adding an office with parking for the office employees that'll be separate from any truck parking. You can kind of see that that first building on the left has its own little parking space right in front of it. The building in the back, that's the actual waste transfer facility. So the trucks will come in off of Amelie Road up into the industrial park. They would offload their loads there at the waste transfer facility. If they needed to park, they could go down to this large parking lot that we have here. If they needed to wait or anything like that, they would have a space so that they could park. They're not going to be lining Amelie Road or anything like that. So we mentioned that this did have to go through a DRI process, and part of the DRI is taking a look at traffic. What we did here is that we looked at the truck routes, and we made a truck routing plan to figure out how the trucks will get to the new facility without disturbing any residential uses. And so on the left, you can see how we would route for 25-ton trucks. The percentages you see there are the percentage of trucks that will use those lanes. You see going north-south on the west side here, that 100% number. That means all of the trucks will be using that lane, cutting across, I want to say that's 81 there, and then coming back down Old Highway 3 to get onto Amelie Road. And there's a very short stretch of Amelie Road that they'd have to travel on before turning right into Liberty Square Park so that they could get to the new waste transfer facility. Of note here, you'll see that 0% number between the subject property and the highway, Highway 3? Mm-hmm. Steel Road is a very residential road, bisects Amelie Road. We cannot pass it. And this plan accounts for that. So we're already planning, we don't want to go into that residential area, and staff's condition also prevents us from doing that. On the right side, you see the truck routing plan for 5-ton trucks. These are less heavy, less intense, so there's a bit more leeway where they're allowed to go. But still, the main way to get to the property is going to be down Old Highway 3 into Amelie Road. It's just that they're coming from different locations there. Just one more thing to talk about. We did do a trip generation memo. Typically, when you do a DRI, you're required to do a full traffic impact study. However, there's an exception to that rule. If the trip generation is below 1,000, that's the trigger number, 1,000. If it's below 1,000, you don't have to do a full impact study. We came in at 452 daily trips, below half of what triggers that full study. So we're so far below that, they just said, okay, no problem, you can do the trip generation memo. And what that told us was we would be generating 452 daily trips, that's over the course of 24 hours, with 43 of those trips being during the AM peak hours and during the PM peak hours. Those are 43 trips in the morning, 43 trips in the evening. And so what that means is when people are getting up and going to work, most of our trips, most of our traffic is not going to be happening. The balance of it will be happening while people are at work or at school. That's when we'll be doing most of our moving around. Only 43 trips in the morning and in the evening will contribute to the peak hour traffic. And so, to conclude, we are asking for the rezoning from M1 to M2. It is consistent with the future land use. We're looking to move an existing business up away from residential into an established industrial park so that we can be surrounded by other industrial uses, so that we can upgrade the facility and help Henry County move its trash away from the county, really. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you'll have.
Thank you. Okay. Does the board have a question for the applicant?
Yes, quickly. So what is currently on the property?
It's kind of vacant right now. There's just a little bit of storage. Mr. Bartram has some dumpsters that he's put there just temporarily.
Okay. It seems like you guys are accounting for the global warming with the limiting of the long-run trips as well, so that's pretty awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. I don't see anyone coming forward. We have less than a minute, about 50 seconds for anyone wishing to speak in favor. I don't see anyone coming forward. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Okay. I don't see anyone coming forward. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant?
I'm not sure if it's applicant or I just talked to staff. With Amelie Road has,
Mr. Villa, I don't want to interrupt you, but could you tap your mic for me? Okay, give me 1 minute. I think your mic might be defective. Could you move over to the next seat,
Check
please?
that one.
Okay.
let's try that one.
Yes, sir.
Amelie Road, I'm sure wasn't designed for industrial traffic. And as we know, the roads in Henry County all have their issues, and I'm sure coming up, with, even though they're lightweight trucks supposedly, but then once you load them all together, and those trucks coming out that are the bigger ones, they're going to have a lot of wear and tear on Amelie Road. So to have the DOT see if there needs to be some upgrades in that section to get from the transfer station outlet there on Amelie over to Highway 3. So basically the residents of the county don't have to pay for upgrades as it starts wearing out because you're moving the roll-off traffic there also, so that along with just the stuff you're transferring would be potentially a problem. So it might need to be checked out by the DOT. Just is there any concern with the Tauliga watershed protection? I know it's in there. I know it's kind of on the edge of it, but is there any requirement that the water authority needs to give their blessing, or does it meet the guidelines is basically what it needs to be?
Yes, so the watershed area is right on the outskirts of it. Only a small portion, as you mentioned, of the property is within that watershed. It is within the limited development area. Our condition 1, I'll go back to that in a second, but our condition 1 requires an extensive buffer along that eastern portion where that watershed kind of encroaches into. Our 100-foot buffer as recommended is an enhanced or undisturbed buffer. The applicant has left an extensive buffer along that portion where it is within that watershed. Our recommendation is to increase that buffer just a little bit more, provide that buffer area. As far as the water authority, when it comes time for permitting, the water authority is going to have to review plans along with any of our other county departments.
Okay. And then, the last thing I had was waste transfer station. And we have in the conditions that's all that can be there other than M1 stuff. But is there a definition somewhere of what a waste transfer station is so that you keep within those guidelines if we do approve this? That's kind of what I'm going for. Is there a real definition that says you can do this much, but then nothing more?
Sure. The county code at this point in time does not have a definition for waste transfer stations. In such instances, we do look towards the American Planning Association's dictionary and glossary. That unfortunately also does not have any real clear definition for waste transfer. If your concern is the limitations on what a waste transfer station really can be, staff is more than happy to provide a condition, maybe when it comes down to the BOC level, as far as guidelines and specifications on that.
And I think it, again, if this passes, that through us, is to have some kind of definition for that for the BOC would be great, I think.
So if I may, Mr. VM, the definition that we've been working off of, I essentially described it to you earlier when I dove into what the waste transfer facility is. I just was really reading from the definition that I have. A waste transfer facility, it's a little different from another type of facility called a materials recovery facility. The difference being the waste transfer facility is where waste is collected, compacted, and then transported. That is really all it does. The materials recovery facility adds another step. It attempts to recover recyclable materials and package those up for resale. In speaking with Mr. Bartram, he's told me that is really his goal. He wants to try to collect recyclable materials later on so that can be incorporated into his business. So one thing I would want to make sure is if we're going to have a condition like this, that be allowed as we go forward. And I think this is another really good use to have if it's going to fit under the definition of a waste transfer facility, because we're, instead of just taking trash to the landfill or the disposal facility, getting it back into the stream of commerce to be reused again. It's a really great thing. So I would just want to make sure that is included should this become a condition. And then I'd like to, if I can, just take a moment to address the comment you made earlier about Amelie Road. While I can certainly understand why we'd want to talk to the traffic department, one thing to note is that the industrial park is already there, and there's some businesses operating already. It does look like they are using trucks on Amelie Road already, and so while we're kind of guesstimating here, it does look like Amelie has been able to withstand the existing truck traffic, and I completely understand the added truck traffic may be a concern. So it's, I think, good to know if it puts you at ease that Amelie has been under that strain already and has done okay, but we're certainly able to work with the traffic department to see if we need to make any enhancements.
And from my point, it's just a check before it goes into effect if there is an issue that needs to be dealt with. Because right now, that industrial park really doesn't use Amelie, or there's nothing there that uses it at this point, where you'd put a lot more strain on it.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's, what I was talking about doesn't necessarily have to be done right now. It's just before the Board of Commissioners. I think those would be helpful points. And that's it for me.
Okay. I believe Mr. Bishop.
Yes, I was just going to ask the staff if you would again put up on the screen the current zoning map and then the future land use map, so we can see that in relation to the land use plan. And then also for the applicant, while he's doing that, let's see, you've had a waste disposal operation in the city of Hampton for some time, have you not? Or
Mr. Bartram has, yes.
Right, I remember that from, and then, so is your objective to move all of your operation to this new facility?
That is my understanding. We're going to move everything? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so this current...
If you could point out the location on the zoning map, and then
Yes, certainly. So the zoning map on my cursor and on the overhead, that shows, that's in green, that's subject property, currently zoned industrial, M1.
Okay, and the large shaded area that's at the top of the map, that's Georgia Pacific?
I believe that might,
Or
I
that's
don't
the
recall.
M2 area?
Okay, yes, it is.
Okay.
And that darker gray, that is that M2 zoning district,
Okay.
as the applicant is requesting.
Okay, and then again, showing us the future land use map.
Yep, and that is that future land use map, industrial there on that subject property.
Okay, and I think that you said in your report that the reason that the Atlanta Regional Commission got involved is because this is, considered as a regional facility. Is that correct?
That is correct. The ARC provides thresholds for what is and is not a DRI. A waste transfer station does require DRI review.
Okay. All right, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, if not, you may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, again, we would like to allot, we would like to call the case if
Yes.
nothing further.
RZ 2309, Bartram ADM Properties LLC of Hampton, Georgia, requests a rezoning from M1 Light Manufacturing to M2 Heavy Manufacturing for properties located at 160 and 180 Sedgeview Drive in Land Lot 218 of the 6th District. The property consists of 10.066 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a waste transfer station. District 5, presented by Kent Lanham, Planner 3.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve, but with the documented conditions and also with staff adding a condition to define what a waste transfer station is.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, call the next case, please.
The next two cases are associated, so I will call them together. Comp AM 2401, Heck Walker Jordan, PC of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at 5478 Flakes Mill Road in Land Lot 210 of the 12th District. The property consists of 18.427 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from low-density suburban to medium-density suburban. District 2, presented by Faith Akuta, Planner 1, RZ 2406, Heck Walker Jordan, PC of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to R5, single-family residence for property located at 5478 Flakes Mill Road in Land Lot 210 of the 12th District. The property consists of 18.427 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a townhome development. District 2, presented by Faith Akuta, Planner 1.
Good evening, Chair, board members, and citizens of Henry County.
Good evening.
The two requests before you are for property located at 5478 Flakes Mill Road. The property is currently zoned RA, residential agricultural, with a future land use designation of low-density suburban. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from RA, residential agricultural, to R5, single-family residence, and to amend the future land use map designation from low-density suburban to low-density mixed use, and to support the concurrent rezone request. RZ 2406. Here's an aerial view of the map with the subject property outlined in green. Here's a current zoning map of the property, also outlined in green. This is the future land use designation of the subject property. It's low-density suburban. The low-density suburban future land use designation is intended to maintain a lower-density, single-family character of unincorporated Henry County, but with improved aesthetics and roadway connectivity. Here we have a conceptual site plan submitted by the applicant dated December 7, 2023. The plan indicates 100 townhome units, which will be required to meet the standards in the multifamily ordinance and the standards of the Highway Corridor Overlay District. Here are elevations provided by the applicant. The closest nearby multifamily development is an apartment complex. It's roughly 2 miles away, and this project is currently under construction. The property sits on Flakes Mill Road within the Highway Corridor Overlay District. The subject property is zoned RA, Residential Agricultural, with the future land use map designation of low-density suburban, which supports residential developments up to 2.0 dwelling units per net acre. In addition to the rezoning, the applicant is requesting a concurrent comprehensive plan amendment to support the rezoning request to amend the future land use designation for the subject property from low-density to suburban to low-density mixed use, which would support the proposed development and rezoning request. A change in the future land use map designation to low-density mixed use is required to support the applicant's rezoning request. Here we have a few comments from additional county departments. Water service and public sewer is available to the subject property. According to the Henry County Transportation Planning Department, they recommend the applicant install sidewalks along both sides of Flake Mill Road from Cook Drive to Panola Road, and this property will be served by Fire Station Number 6, which is roughly 0.5 miles away from the subject property. After evaluating the request, staff recommends denial of the request to change the future land use designation of the subject property from low-density suburban to low-density mixed use, as well as denial of the applicant's request to rezone the property from RA Residential Agricultural to R5 Single-Family Residence. The project will need to fully comply with the requirements of the multifamily ordinance, meeting the minimum requirements such as detailing the compatible amenities and the number of units within a row of townhomes. And before I take any questions, staff did receive a letter in the mail from a citizen who was not able to make it this evening, and I'll go ahead and read that on their behalf.
Okay, thank you.
This is on behalf of Mr. Don and Judy Scarborough. Dated April 29, 2024. To the Henry County Administration Building zoning. This is about the zoning at 5478 Flakes Mill Road. We live at 5468 Flakes Mill Road. This is very upsetting to us that you might approve of a subdivision being built here. The amount of cars on Flakes Mill Road has really gotten out of hand. We have a hard enough time getting out of our driveway now. It will be even worse if more homes are built. Please come out and see for yourselves before you vote. We have been here for 60 years and have gone through a lot of changes, some good, some not. We can't be there for the meeting on May 9th. I'm the sole driver now, and I can't do nights. We will pray that you do the right thing for all of us. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Don and Judy Scarborough. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Does the board have any questions for staff?
Not the staff, no, not at this time.
Okay. Will the applicant please come forward? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, how are you?
Good evening.
Greg Hadwalker Jordan, 205 Corporate Center Drive, Stockbridge, Georgia. And I proceed.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members, appreciate the opportunity to present this. Our firm is the applicant and represents Four Star Real Estate Group, which is under contract to purchase the property. Four Star has several great other projects. You may have heard of Hampton Preserve, which is nearby McDonough. You saw the elevations that have been provided previously. Very pretty projects. I think you can agree that were previously on the screen, and we can provide those to you as well. But you did see it previously. They operate in 20 states, are publicly traded since 2007, and have a great charitable presence. This subject property is looking for professionals with good incomes. With us today are Mr. and Mrs. Mark Crane, who are behind me, as well as I have also Jack Burke, and I also have Ren Gazzoni, also who are here from Four Star. We feel very strongly about this project in terms of where it is. The property, as stated, is near the intersection of Flakes Mill and Panola. It is west from that section is owned by the additional acreage is also owned by the Crane family, as well as there is beyond it an online salvage car auction business. We believe that this project will actually be something that beautifies the area and actually adds to it. In addition, north is a part of Grants Mill subdivision. East is a part of Panola Wood subdivision, which is R4. South is a self-storage company, which is Extra Space Storage, and is Zone C2. We believe that this project in particular, which is limited only to 100 units as opposed to like an apartment complex, and this is under the 8 units as opposed to a 16-unit type mixed-use apartment complex development, is something that would significantly transpose the area and serve as a transition area between the commercial area that's beside it to the single-family detached area, and provide a competitive housing project that's sorely needed in the county, especially for young professionals with good incomes. This would beautify the area, which, as we said, is next to a storage facility and close to a junkyard. A few blocks away are a CVS and a McDonald's. The square footage of these projects, of these townhomes, would be about 1,600 to 2,200 square feet. The approximate price range is in the mid-300s. Of course, it'll take about 2 years to construction. There's going to be a mandatory HOA. These are going to be fee simple, meaning they are not going to be for rent. They're going to be for purchase. We also know there will be a dog park, playground, mailbox kiosk, and proper amenities with that cabana and mail kiosk. We believe that this will be the exact type of transition project needed between the commercial and the residential, and is smaller than what an apartment complex would be as a result also. We would ask you to approve the rezoning that goes basically to an R5, as well as the Flume Amendment to a low-density mixed-use. I know we've got a limitation of 10 minutes. I would like to bring up Mr. and Mrs. Crane that would like to talk about their ownership of the property and how long they've been committed to this area, and the opportunity to have this property developed into something nice for the community. Mr. Mark Crane.
Thank you. Mark Crane, I live at 5478 Flakes Mill Road. My family's been there for generations. My children represent the 5th generation of our family to live on the property that I know of. It could be more than that. When my parents lived on the property, it was all dirt roads. It was the country. Long about 2008, the county came and wanted to put a sewer line on the backside of the property. To be honest with you, I was not in favor of that, but they made it clear that if I didn't go along with it, they would condemn my property. So, of course, I gave in and didn't complain, went along with the improvement to my property. And they made it clear that this would enhance the value of my property and make my property a good target for future development, and that I should be glad that it was going to happen. At the time, I didn't see that, but looking at it now, the property is actually perfect for a development like this. It's high at the road, and it's downhill all the way back to where the sewer line is. So, no pumping stations would be required. It's ideal for, being able to use the existing infrastructure that's there for the property. My kids are not interested in the property. We're empty nesters now. We need to downsize. Maintaining 20 acres is more than I really want to look forward to as I'm getting older. Taxes continue to increase. I got a notice in the mail this week. It's going up another $2,000 this year. So, you know, it's time for us to move on, and we have an opportunity to take advantage of what your predecessors had promised to us, and that was a chance to develop the property in the future. And I'm, you know, humbly requesting that you approve my opportunity here to take advantage of what was promised to me in the past. Thank you.
So in conclusion, I think Mr. and Mrs. Crane make a point that when the county came in and basically threatened them either with giving us the property for the sewer expansion or being condemned for the sewer expansion, the promise was made that they would at some time be able to sell the property and have it developed like it is now. It's not being developed for an apartment complex. It's being developed for competitive housing with a great developer with a product that is proven, that is nice, competitive, and sorely needed in this county, whether it's for police officers, teachers, whether it's need for business folks, young professionals, medical professionals, whatever, it's critically needed in this county, and more of it is needed than less. It should have less of an impact than any other type of development of a commercial nature, certainly, and could have certainly less of that of an apartment. We hope that the board will agree with this and recommend it on to the commission, and we appreciate the opportunity to present it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question.
No, and do you, does the board have any questions for the applicant?
I do. Now, have your applicant considered single-family dwellings there?
Well, I'll ask Four-Star and Mr. Crane come up as well, if y'all want to talk about that, Jack or Ren.
And a question for staff, since we were using or putting both of these together, is it a 20-minute time limit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so instead of, so you have 12 minutes and 40 seconds.
I guess I didn't need to talk as fast as I did. I appreciate that now. Come on.
Hey, good evening. I'm Jack Burke. I work with Four-Star, 3330 Cumberland Boulevard, Atlanta, Georgia. We did do an analysis on the property, and due to the cost of development, today's cost, it's not financially feasible for us to develop a single-family detached.
Okay, so single-family was out on this particular property?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
We would also mention the way that Four-Star has done this, there's about a 34% green space exterior to it and some interior green space as well. So fairly well utilizing it in terms of the amount of green space.
Okay.
Any further questions?
That's all I have as of now.
Looks like no further questions from the board. Now we'll allow the rest of the, 12 minutes and 40 seconds for anyone else in favor of this project. Seeing no one else coming up, we'll allow 20 minutes for anyone to speak against this project. Please come forward and give us your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Lester. I live at 198 Gavion Loop, Ellenwood, Georgia, 30294. The property I live in is right around the corner from this project. So I've lived in the area since about 2005. I purchased my home in 2017. I based my purchase on my home because there wasn't any public transportation or multifamily units within the area. The roads that are currently supporting our street on Fairview Road, it's only 2 lanes. This is definitely going to increase traffic tremendously, creating more congestion, additional hazards such as speeders, car accidents. There's already blind spots due to the lack of county maintenance. There's road erosion, potholes, flooding with heavy rain, no light in regards to support the traffic that's already there, and according to DOT's research, there's not one that's needed. A year or so ago, a builder was denied being able to expand their single-family home development project from 20 to 40 homes due to the lack of support of the sewer and water. which includes not being able to support commercial facilities as well nearby on Fairview Road. I'd ask that you guys would please consider a development moratorium on this area in order to reject all applications for mass development such as this until District 2 master plan has been devised by staff and consultants. This will be directly behind my neighbors' homes and right within our community. They did mention that there's service of the fire department is less than 0.5 miles away. What about the police department? We already don't have support in that regard. This definitely will not beautify our neighborhood at all. And I would like to say that I don't think that the mid 300,000 mark is affordable for teachers and safety responders, as you guys said. When you look at the ads for the positions that are posted for our safety responders, they are not making anywhere near that to support purchasing a townhome in that capacity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak against this? Seeing no one,
We have one person coming.
oh, sorry, I missed that.
Good evening. My name is Antoinette Hollis, and I too stay in the Grants Mill subdivision at 127 Gabion Loop. I too am in not agreement with this particular purchase or development for the simple fact, as she's already stated, it backs up directly to the homes that you can see on the map that's there. Those homes at the top of the outside of the red line is exactly where our subdivision lies. The gentleman who sent in the letter who asks that you humbly not let this pass through, he sits right in between that little area where his house would be entrapped, so to speak, because of this. As Mrs. Lester already stated, the road outside of there is horrible. The traffic is horrible. I'm sure you guys are aware that just at the corner of Flakes Mill and Panola, there sits a grocery store on one side of the street and a nightclub on the other side of the street, which already brings along a lot of activity that's unwanted, but it's there. So this, bringing that in, selling in that area of what they're looking to sell the townhomes at, the likelihood of getting better residents, I don't see it. That's me personally. However, I still am not in agreement with this at all, and just wanted to give my piece. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak against? And seeing no one, does the board have any further questions for the applicant or staff?
I have a question for staff. Staff, now, our main purpose for denial was based on?
It was based on the actual flume not supporting the rezoning request. With the current future land use designation, the R5 zone district is not supported.
Okay. And for the record, that is zoned now R2 or R1?
The property is currently zoned RA, single
RA.
residential agricultural.
Okay. All right, thank you. No further questions.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Now, staff, since we're doing two cases, do we need to call them separately?
Actually, we do have comments.
Okay.
So it seems as though we have a typo in our advertising. The applicant is requesting a comprehensive plan change from low-density residential to low-density mixed use. What has been advertised is low-density suburban, to medium-density suburban. That is an error on staff. What I would like for the board to consider is making a recommendation for the rezoning, but allow staff the opportunity to bring the comp plan back, advertise correctly at the next board meeting.
Okay.
Since the zoning really is contingent on what the comp plan is, do we need to do both next time to
We certainly could. You wouldn't require another public hearing for the rezoning at least. You could make a decision on the rezoning, but if you don't feel comfortable about it, we can postpone this until the next meeting.
Any thoughts, Mr. Nelson?
Well, I do have a question before that. Are you aware of any agreement that was granted to the applicant in the past?
No, sir. I assume when he spoke about the sewer line,
Yes.
I don't know, like staff, we're not sure when that sewer line went in, but that's not something this department would be privy to, any degree, agreement.
Okay. All right. Well, based on that and going back, I would like to table it and move it to the next meeting.
Understood.
Okay.
You'd have to make a motion.
Okay.
Can I have a motion?
Okay, yes. I'd like to make a motion that we table Comp AM 2401 and RZ 2406 to the next meeting, please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Passed unanimously.
Okay. Staff, will you call the next case, please?
The next two cases are also associated, so they will be called together. RZ 2403, Liberty Communities of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agriculture to RS Residential Suburban for properties located at 883 Upper Woolsey Road and 256 Little Road in land lots 220 and 221 of the 6th District. The property consists of 80.09 plus or minus acres, and the request is for single-family and townhome development. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 3, and VR 2402. Liberty Communities of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a variance for properties located at 883 Upper Woolsey Road and 256 Little Road in land lots 220 and 221 of the 6th District. The property consists of 80.09 plus or minus acres, and the request is for relief from the development standards of the Highway Corridor Overlay District and stream buffer requirements. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 3.
Chair, board members, and citizens of Henry County. The item before you is for property located off of north of Little Road between Upper Woolsey Road and Highway 1941. Property is approximately 80.09 plus or minus acres and currently zoned RA Residential Agricultural. A rezoning request before you is to rezone the subject property from RA to RS Residential Suburban for the purpose of a single-family and townhome development. The current future land use map designation is low-density mixed use, which would support up to 8 dwelling units per net acre. The variance request before you is for relief from access requirements of Highway Corridor Overlay District, as well as the improvement requirements. This is the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. The plan indicates 325 fee simple units. That is 198 townhome units and 127 single-family lots. Again, that total 325. And these are the applicant submitted elevations. On the top, we see that single-family. On the bottom, we see some examples for those townhomes. This shows some existing developments within the area, a few of which are pending BOC approval. And that is also included in the staff report. Here are some comments that we've received from the various departments, including Henry County Water and Sewage Authority, Transportation and Transportation Planning, and DOT, as well as the School Board and Public Safety. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from RA Residential Agricultural to RS Suburban Residential, again, for that mixed single-family and townhome development, 325 units for 127 single-family and 198 townhome for a density of 5.03 dwelling units per acre net. The 2045 comprehensive plan designates the subject property as low-density mixed use, which would support the rezoning request and a density of up to 8 dwelling units per acre net. A portion of the subject property is located within the Highway Corridor Overlay District, and we need to comply with those standards. Similarly, it does have a multifamily component to it, and that would also need to meet the design standards for multifamily developments. As I mentioned previously, the applicant is also requesting a variance request for relief from some standards. That would be regarding access requirements. That is section 40504A1A regarding the 600-foot block length. B, their exemption from public improvement requirements along 1941, as well as exemption from requirements of the improvement standards, sidewalks and whatnot regarding Little Road and Upper Woolsey. I do want to note that the Henry County Transportation Plan that does recommend installation of sidewalks on both sides of 1941 from Talmadge Road down to Speedway Boulevard in the long term. That would be from 2026 down to 2050. The applicant does fall within this area, which is why, and I'll get to that actually in a little bit with my recommendation. The zoning request for that RZ 2403, staff does recommend approval with some conditions. I do believe it is 16 conditions. 16 conditions there, as well as for the variance VR 2402. Staff does recommend approval of the applicant's request for a portion of roads B and F as indicated on the site plan, which was revised January 9th, 2023, to be greater than 600 feet without intersection as required by that highway corridor section. Staff does recommend denial of the applicant's request for the following: elimination of standards for sections 40505 of the ULDC requiring public infrastructure improvements along Highway 1941. Similarly, denial of the request for exemption of Highway Corridor Overlay District requirements for portions of subject property along Little Road and Upper Woolsey Road. Thank you so much. I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have questions for staff?
Not at the moment.
Okay. I don't see anyone coming forward. I'm sorry. So if no further question, applicant, will you please come forward?
Good evening, gentlemen. Michelle Battle with Battle Law, 3562 Habersham at North Lake, Tucker, Georgia, 30084. Going the wrong direction. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
So the first thing I would like to point out, and I don't want to be redundant with what staff has put forth, is that this section of the county has now been provided with a land use designation of low-density mixed use. And I know that's probably really startling for a lot of the people who live within this area, mainly because it has been very rural for a very long time. But the truth of the matter is the county clearly sees a different vision as this property and as the properties in the surrounding area move forward, hence the land use designation that allows up to 8 units per acre. It should be noted that on this particular project, we are nowhere close to the maximum under that land use designation. Additionally, we have opted in terms of the use to limit it to a residential use as opposed to introducing commercial uses along with residential uses within the boundaries of the property. We are bounded by Highway 1941 as well as Upper Woolsey and Little Road. Both Woolsey and Little Road, while Woolsey is actually considered a major collector road, Little Road is a local road. And there are many improvements that under the Highway Overlay District would be, our staff is proposing, would be required under those right-of-ways, and I will have some commentary further in about those improvements that are being proposed by staff. But the main thing is this area is in transition, and we are certainly consistent with what has already been envisioned by the county for the area. The low-density mixed-use details in the comprehensive plan clearly show 0 to 8 dwelling units per acre, up to 2 stories, non-residential. You can see some of the pictures of what has been contemplated for that particular land use district. We are seeking a rezoning to RS, which is residential suburban. So we are consistent with what the current comprehensive plan provides for the site. There's a bigger picture where we see the RA designation. And again, all of that area that's in white on that side of the site is all under that land use designation of low density mixed use. And you can see on the other side where there is a little bit more diversity in the types of zonings on that side, which is why I suspect it is a bit startling to some who may live on the western side of 1941. When we look at the proposed project, again, we actually have 323 units now, with 125 units of single-family detached and 198 townhome units. The gross density, again, is 4.03 with a net density of 5.03. This is the project as it kind of sits within the boundaries of the property. So that gives you some idea of how it will look from an overhead perspective. The townhome units are closer to the Highway 1941. We have one point of access on that side onto Little Road. And then off of the Upper Woolsey side, we do have another point of entrance. Overall, the project, again, is for that 125 units. You can see we're very self-contained on the site. We've got an amenity area within the interior of the project with a swimming pool, cabana, as well as parking areas. We have walking trails that are also located throughout the community. There will be a playground as well for the residents. And we believe that this will be a wonderful community built by Liberty. They are very enthusiastic about this particular area and is very eager to provide housing for many of the folks who are looking for housing throughout the metro Atlanta area as we continue through this housing crisis that we are currently in. In terms of the RS standards, the minimum lot area that we are complying with is 7,260 square feet with a minimum lot width of 60, front yard setbacks at 25, side at 10, rear at 25. The townhome minimum lot area will be 2,800 square feet. There'll be 24 feet in width on this site. I've got a video, and I'm hoping that it will play. There we go. This gives you a little bit of an idea, flavor and feel for the project as it lays out. This project is on property that is in excess of 80 acres. So it's a large site, despite the fact that we are not maxing out the density on the site. You can see here that we have not only the townhome community has extra additional parking for guests. We've got the walking trails throughout the project. The amenity area, clubhouse, the playground, pool area. Some of the single-family detached. Two-story, potentially some single-story, shown on the video. This just gives a further close-up of some of the amenity area. In terms of the variances that have been requested, I won't go over, with regards to the 600 feet, streets beyond that with a block. Because of the way that the site is laid out, we were kind of forced to have some areas where we had blocks that were longer than 600 feet. It's a very kind of curvy street grid that has been laid out. We try to break that up. However, it's a very oddly shaped parcel, and that's what has kind of put us in the position of having to have fewer breaks within the road. But we believe that because the street is more curvilinear, it will not allow for kind of a racetrack feel where people will just be able to zoom through the community. With regards to the other two variances that were requested, the first, and I'll take the first last, so to speak. With regards to the Highway 1941 improvements, we believe that there is no ability to put in those right-of-way improvements without some real consideration of safety concerns as well as environmental concerns, and I'll go over that very quickly. The other is really more of a position that we feel needs to be reviewed by staff, if not by legal staff with the county. The Highway Corridor Overlay District sets out very clearly what its boundaries are, and it states the streets which are included within the Highway Corridor Overlay District. One of the things you will notice here is that it states that parcels of land abutting Highway 138 east or west, Highway 155, 20 east or west, Highway 81 east or west, Highway 42 north or south, Jonesboro Road, Jodico Road, Eagles Landing, Hudson Bridge, East Lake Parkway, East Lake Road, Fairview Road, East Atlanta Road, Westville Parkway, Anvil Block Road, West Panola Road, Flakes Mill, North Henry Boulevard, Highway 1941, and the Henry County Airport. Not once did you hear me say Upper Woolsey, nor did you hear me say Little Road, because those roads are not, in my opinion, a part of the Highway Corridor Overlay District. And if you had a project that was being developed solely on those roads with no access or no frontage on Highway 1941 or any of these other streets, you would not be within the Highway Corridor District having to do the additional improvements that are required under the Highway Corridor Overlay District. Furthermore, it indicates in section 5.0505 that public rights-of-way within the corridor are to be improved. It is our position that Upper Woolsey and Little Road are not within the corridor. I had a map that I could have proven that on, but for some reason, not anything from staff, I know, but the Highway Corridor Overlay District is no longer available online when you're going on to the land use and zoning map. You can't click on the button and see where the outline of those of the corridor is at. I hope that that will get changed soon. When you look here again at Upper Woolsey again and Little Road, they are not within the overlay district. And the fact that we are abutting another road should not immediately bring those roads into play. We would be governed by the typical road improvements that are required under the land development and UD, never can say. ULDC, never just the zoning ordinance to me, the ULDC, these newfangled words. And so we believe, again, that there's not even really a variance needed. We don't believe that we are even covered under that. And so that is a position I've put forth before. We have not been able to get any feedback with regards to that. I think it is a legal issue because the language in the ordinance is clear that the roads have to be within the district, not abutting the district. And so that is why we believe that we don't have to make the improvements under the highway corridor district for those two portions of Upper Woolsey and Little Road. This is an example of the intersections there. Both roads are actually at their correct right-of-way width. Upper Woolsey is a major collector, and it is at 80 feet in width, and the width of Little Road is 60 feet of right-of-way. Little Road, the paved area, is at 20 feet, which under, again, the ULDC, we are in compliance and don't have to make extra improvements. Along Little Road on Upper Woolsey, again, they're at 80%, and we believe that we will be compliant with what the underlying ordinance requirements are, where we don't have to comply with the overlay, but we still have to comply with whatever the county's general right-of-way improvement requirements are for existing roads. With respect to corridor Highway 1941, I think I flipped that, there is a significant slope. So there are a couple of reasons why we don't feel like we can do this. And I know John Palmer, who's our engineer, is having, where is my elevation that I gave you? But unfortunately, I didn't get it in time. But we do have our survey. And basically what it shows is that there is wetlands, a stream buffer, and floodplain that is located right along 1941. And in order for us to even get any type of right-of-way improvements along there, we would have to get permission from the state, number one, because we would be within the 25-foot stream buffer. There's also wetlands there, not to include a significant drop. So I'm not even sure how you would put the right-of-way improvements there with the amount of drop and the amount of fill that you would have to put in order to allow for a sidewalk and those other improvements to be made. Additionally, I don't know if you've walked down, I hope none of you have walked down that part of 1941, but as I was driving down it today and looking at the 55-mile-an-hour signage and the truck traffic that is located along that stretch, I'm not really sure why anybody would want to be walking along that portion of Highway 1941. And if we were to put the right-of-way improvements in the existing right-of-way, we'd have to get GDOT approval. But additionally, I am extremely concerned, and we are all extremely concerned on our team about safety. How in the world would you put a sidewalk down in that stretch and keep people safe? So with that, not to mention the final fact, which is we don't have access. Our project doesn't even have a proposed entrance onto Highway 1941. So why are we putting people at risk when you look at the site plan? We've got a gas easement and power line. We've got a stream that's running up there. We don't have enough width to put in any type of sidewalk as currently constructed, and there's a significant dip off of the highway. So we are asking again for approval of the variance as submitted for Highway 1941, as well as certainly our position is that we don't really technically need a variance for the improvements that are proposed by staff for Little and Upper Woolsey. We don't believe that we are within the overlay district with regards to those two streets, and that the code is very clear with regards to those streets having to be a part of the overlay, not simply abutting land that happens to have in another location frontage on one of the streets that are actually in the overlay district. A little technical there, but hopefully you understand, and if I have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have questions for the applicant?
Oh, yes, I do. Are there any more elevations for the,
I apologize, there are some additional elevations that were sent to me after I sent in the PowerPoint. I have them on my phone. I might be able to put them under the light. I don't know if that will work, or if it has to be paper. But I do have some additional elevations, yes.
okay, yeah, because, one of the concerns that we have here in the district is we want to make the properties pop, right, and be appealing to everyone.
Understood. You want the single family or the townhome? Got both. Let me see.
The townhomes.
So those are the single family detached. It's a farmhouse look that they are going for on the site. And then with regards to the townhomes, more of the look on the townhomes. Again, more of a farmhouse look.
Okay.
All right. Any additional questions for the applicant?
Yeah, for me, the proposed density and the number of townhomes is kind of a concern. We really want to see more single-family units than the townhomes.
Okay. Again, with regards to the overall site density, we are even at, gross, we're at half of what is allowed at 8 units per acre, so we're nowhere close to maxing out the site. With the net density, we're only at 5.03, so again, we're still well under what the density is allowed within the low-density mixed-use district. We're not trying to max out the site. In terms of the balance between the single-family detached and the townhome units, certainly we could consider looking at maybe swapping a few of those out, but in terms of what the overall density is on the site, I don't see that changing from the 325. I think we're trying to stay within that framework.
Understood. I was trying to see if we can get the ratio for one or the other to be opposite.
Of course, I look back and no one's looking up. Any thoughts on that?
Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Palmer with Falcon Design Consultants. We're the engineer and the planners on the project. As Ms. Battle has said, with the layout, we've tried to create one large community but two communities within the community. with a centralized amenity right in the center. And we've pushed most of the density, the more dense stuff, up towards 1941 with planning terms to kind of transition as you get further away from the state highway. I can't stand here today and tell you one way or the other if we can get the same number of units by reducing the number of townhomes and increasing the number of single family. My gut feeling from an engineering and planning standpoint is that there would be a loss of units, total units for the development if we were required to do that. I could certainly lay it out and see what the total number would be, but my gut would tell me that it would be about probably a 10% reduction in the total number of units if we had to flip-flop with a single-family detached and single-family attached units.
Thank you.
And I think the other point is, as we are in this housing crisis, is trying to make sure that we do have some level of affordability. We know that the single-family detached homes are probably going to be somewhere in the upper 3s, lower 4s. The townhome units will probably start out in the low to mid 3s. We don't know what the market is going to do as it continues to escalate. So we do want to make certain that we have kind of a price range within the community. I don't know that any of us ever thought that we would see townhomes going at $350,000 that a few years ago were at $200,000 or $225,000. But that's where the market is right now, and I think that is very challenging for those who are trying to get into this market. And so we would ask that there be some consideration of that as we continue to try and provide opportunities for people to be homeowners. And staff has recommended a rental cap, and we are fine with that rental cap because we want, and Liberty is very committed to selling homes to individuals who want to live and reside in Henry County and own their own space.
Okay.
And do we know what that rental cap is? Is it 10%?
Let me double check. I believe it is. That is 10% per our recommended conditions.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. I do have, I don't know if it's a question or, oh, yes. Have you spoke with the county or the county attorney in reference to the overlay district? And
I have not yet.
Okay.
But something tells me that I probably need to.
Oh, yes, because this board is not in position to debate whether you're in the overlay district or not. That's, you bring up some good points, but that's, the board can't, that's not for us to decide.
Understood.
Okay.
Hence why I asked for a variance, just in case they didn't see it the way that I did.
Okay. And any additional questions for the applicant? Okay, if not, you may be seated.
Thank you.
We have 2 minutes and 25 seconds for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Okay, anything additional that you would like to add? We have 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Okay. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Richard Little. I live on 883 Upper Wolsey Road.
Okay.
And I own part of this property going to be rezoned. My property is on Upper Wolsey Road and Little Road. And I'm just going to give a little quick background of the property. My father was born on this property in 1904, and he had a couple of brothers older than he was, so the property has been in the little name from 1900 to 2024, about 125 years. I was one of 8 children. My dad and mother had 8 children, 7 boys and a girl, and the sister, she's a baby. And she's 73 this year, and I got an older brother here. His birthday is today. He's 96. And so there's 3 of us own property north of Little Road. And we're trying to get it rezoned, and there's about 100 acres on the south side of the Little Road. And my brothers and sister own that part of it. My sister has since sold her part, 20 acres. She on the west side, over toward the NASCAR racetrack and the airport. She sold it, so she's no longer concerned this in there. But I've farmed. I was out of the 8. I was the only one that continued farming. My dad was a farmer. He grew cattle and hay or whatever. And so I moved on the property in 1976. So I've been there 48 years. And last year I had health problems. I got macular degeneration. I'm partially blind. And had heart surgery last year. I got a pig valve in my heart. And so I'm no longer able to tend to my cattle. And that's the reason I got 2 brothers that on the side I live on have passed. And his wife is one of the ones selling, and the other brother, he and his wife passed, and they have 4 children that's selling the property. So there's 3 of us on that side that's on this 80 acres. And my brother's 96, his property's on the south side of the Little Road, and he's ready to sell his property. And so we just trying to let Progress move on and understand Liberty is a great company, and I think they'll do a good job for the county. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. We have 23 seconds. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay. All right. At this time, we'd like to allot 20 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. And keep in mind, we all share that 20-minute slot for the opposition. Please state your name as you come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Tom Bunnell, 95 Little Road, Hampton, Georgia, 30228. It's cold in here.
It is.
And we happen to be the last ones in here. Anyway, we as Americans don't really take much dealing with history as far as it repeating itself. Prior to moving down here, my wife and I lived up in Kennesaw. In 1941, run up to there, 3 lanes, and you couldn't get on it in the weekend. So that's why we moved south. And I have no problem with the building and doing something like that there, but be a little more responsible for it. That's crazy. Little Road goes down there, and you'll see the turns in it. There's wrecks. That's a Little Road racetrack, because that's a cutoff from Woolsey Road to 1941. It's heavy traveled. And I don't mind, again, is selling their land and building on it, but you got to be a little more responsible in what we're trying to do with that there. You know, we'll never get out on 1941, and it just doesn't show good sense. And what I've said in there, the nice thing about being last one is I've listened to what other people say, and everybody that's got up here said the same thing. And this is the thoughts that we have as a group that lives there. It just doesn't make sense. They just opened up across the road in 1941, and Carlisle sold their property. They're going to shove houses in there. Is anybody looking at everything in the area? You're starting to look like Cobb County. That's why I moved out of Cobb County, and it's time to move again. But the idea, too, is shoving all that property into one area. You got an airport over there. Murphy's Law says one day something's going to come up a little short. And where we live, they go right over our house and drop in over the trees. And I've never had to go over there and pick anybody up or see if there's any help I could offer them, but time is coming. The busier it gets, the more it's going to do. So it doesn't make good sense putting this many people's lives in risk, sell the land, but at least don't make it so packed full, it looks like a can of sardines. These other people here will get up one at a time and voice their opinions.
I am Debbie Bonnell. I'm a niece. My father is still alive, their brother. And we live, all of us here, and the others sitting back there, live on the other side of the road. And there are several concerns, possible reduction of our property values, potential negative effect on the neighborhood, traffic, noise, people trespassing. The traffic itself, Little Road is only a 2-lane road, barely with one car, actually 2 can, but there's wrecks. We live on the first house on the, second house on the left, right off 1941, right before that curve. My sister lives in that curve, and we can tell you how many times that fire hydrant had to be replaced, or we've gone down there at the other curve where cars are upside down, where they have going around the curve. There's speed limits, but guess what? That never happens. They cut through Woolsey Road, off of Woolsey to Little Road to 1941. Now you can't even get across. You've got to make a turn to go south to be able to go north. Entrances off of this that they're wanting to do onto Little Road, plus they have proposed putting townhomes on the side of us with entrances onto Little Road from there, from those also. Really? That quality of life. We have residents, to include the elderly that are concerned about the safety issues if this should happen, and the integrity of the airport and the land use around it. I'm not opposed to growth either, but really schools, roads, and for them not to be getting exited off of this onto 1941 is ridiculous for them to come on Little Road. Little Road and Woolsey Road, when you're there and you want to turn right or left, is very hard to see. There's a curve coming around Woolsey Road to where you've got to be really careful. We almost got hit, and was it last night or night before last we went out. It's just very hard to see. The road, that picture shows that Little Road looked really wide, but it's not really wide. That picture is very deceiving. So you know, we're getting older too. We have a little over 7 acres. You know, we're going to have to downsize one time too, or we're going to have to just cut grass. But it's just ridiculous to have that much with houses this far apart is just ridiculous. And the houses across, they're going to put off of 81, I heard was 500 in one place where they've already decorated, and 1,000 on down off of not even a mile from that on the left, and that's not counting the other land that they're supposed to be doing all this to. And 1941 cannot handle it, much less Little Road having entrances coming in and out of there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I live at the curve, and I play Russian roulette every time I leave my driveway. It's like I'm taking a chance leaving my driveway because I think I'm going to hit. And the traffic on Little Road is ridiculous. And if even the houses they're going to build across Woolsey to 1941, there's going to be more and more traffic coming from there. 1941 cannot stand the traffic now. It's just at a standstill in a lot of areas. So putting all these townhouses and homes there is just going to make the traffic horrendous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Cindy Patterson, Cindy Little Patterson, 101 Little Road.
Thank you.
I'm Betty Little. I live at 297 Little Road. We have lived at this spot for over 40 years. I lost my husband. We traveled the world for 20 years. We settled on this spot. We have lived there 40 years, and I lost him 16 years ago. But I'm still there. It is our roots. As I said, we were in the military 20 years. We traveled 20 years. But now we have set down roots, and I would love to keep them there. And I agree what the rest of the family has said. It's too much building. It's going to look like Lovejoy, and Lovejoy has been ruined. And I don't want that in our community. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please state your name and address for the record.
Pam Patterson, 75 Little Road, and I hear all that they're saying, but as a retired educator, my greatest concern is how many children are going to be living in those townhomes and those single-family homes, and how are they going to get a quality education and enough teachers to provide what they need educationally when you have this?
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Well, we have roughly 12 minutes for anyone else wishing to speak in opposition. Okay. Does the board have additional questions for staff or the applicant?
I have a question for staff. Do we know if a traffic impact study has been done or if it's scheduled to be completed?
The applicant may be able to confirm if a traffic impact study has or has not been completed. However, I will say that our zoning code, as well as our recommendations, that would require a traffic impact study.
Okay. Any addition, Mr. V?
On, well, this, the little road there, where it hits 1941, we've approved townhomes on the other three corners?
The Board of Commissioners, I believe earlier this year, rezoned the southeast corner for townhomes. The northeast and the southwest portions on this corner, those are scheduled for the Board of Commissioners later this month.
Okay. With those, as they're, even though they're not approved by the commissioners, but getting by us, they had to follow the highway corridor overlay district for the side roads also?
Yes.
If you remember in January, we had a ZAB meeting where we had the southwest quadrant and the northeast quadrant that this board recommended approval for. Both of those developments did meet the highway corridor standards for sidewalks. Staff does not think it would be in consistency to take away the sidewalks from this development as well. Also, the highway corridor overlay district details standards for local and collector roads as well as our highways, our major arterials. So local and collector roads are actually taken into account within the highway corridor standard. The sidewalk and the street tree standards are a little lower because those roads aren't as intense, but they are in there. We have been making changes to our website, so the map may not be up there, but the map does show these properties as a part of the highway corridor overlay district. So whether the verbiage for highway corridor says one thing, there's an attached map that was approved when the highway corridor was approved as well that has this property in the highway corridor standards. Additionally, we are working on rewriting our ULDC, and it is staff's wish to incorporate a sidewalk banking element in the ULDC, and that may be an option. And I'm speaking, further ahead, but that may be an option for the applicant if sidewalks really aren't attainable or necessary, but that's not a decision staff wants to make today. And thus, staff would like to continue with our recommendation as is.
Sure. And I do remember, I think it was Coparts, where they just touched on, I guess it's Fairview Road, but they had to do the full blown thing over on another road. I forget what the name
Yes,
was.
that was
But-
correct.
So we're being consistent if we don't approve the variance for that.
Okay, any further questions for staff?
What was that last comment? If we don't approve the variance?
Right, well, that
For
we would be consistent with past variance
Don't
requests.
approve the overlay.
Yes, what Mr. VM is referring to is, I believe in 2019, a property located within the Highway Corridor Overlay District. At the time of development, it was not in the overlay simply because the overlay didn't exist. But as of 2017, summer of 2017, Highway Corridor did go into effect. That property falls within that Highway Corridor. The property owner at that time wished to make improvements to the property, and as per Highway Corridor, that improvement would trigger further improvements such as road improvements. Mr. VM is correct in that staff remained consistent requiring those, and the board as well, if I'm not mistaken, stayed consistent requiring those sidewalk requirements.
Okay. I'm in firm agreement in terms of if we are determined that it is within overlay district, that it meets those requirements. I guess the biggest concern that the applicant have is whether their property is actually in the overlay, and that's not a decision that we are here to make.
And if I could, the Highway Corridor Overlay District is parcel specific. So if a parcel touches 1941, for example, it is within the overlay district. There are two, let me actually go. So as you can see, there's at least 3 properties of the subject property that do fall within the overlay. That would be this parcel, and this corner parcel here. If I'm not mistaken, this corner parcel, is associated with this parcel as well. But in any event, there is a large majority of the property does fall within that overlay district.
All right. Thank you. All right. Mr. Richard.
Yeah, I just have one request for staff, because I didn't see it touched on too much in the presentation, but could you show on a map where in relation to this property is to the Henry County Airport and the Atlanta Motor Speedway? Because, those are large, some very large attractions that have been there for some time.
Certainly. The airport is actually on this map here, this rectangular piece. The speedway is off of the map a little bit further south down here.
Okay.
But this is the speedway. I'm sorry, this is the airport, my apologies.
Okay, thanks.
And the end of the runway for that speedway, I keep saying speedway, for that airport is right here.
Okay, that's a better map there.
Yes.
And I think you had a question about Atlanta Motor Speedway. Did you have a distance?
The distance, I would not be able to say off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, call the case, please.
RZ 2403, Liberty Communities of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to RS, residential suburban, for properties located at 883 Upper Woolsey Road and 256 Little Road in land lots 220 and 221 of the 6th District. The property consists of 80.09 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family and townhome development. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 3.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
So with the variance, and this?
Yes, so we would, remaining consistent, we would hear the zoning advisory board's recommendation for the rezoning first, and then the variance following that recommendation.
Okay.
I'd like to make a recommendation to table this until July, until the additional elevations and the revised site plans can be made available.
Okay, we have a motion to table.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, discussion, I know most times is, over the years I've been talked to, is if we can avoid tabling and to move it along, because really the commissioners make the decision, we can like approve or disapprove, but to move it on to them if possible. You know, it'd be like with this zoning to yes or no, and then with the, like the variance, with the variance, it's our decision. It doesn't go to the commissioners unless we don't approve it, and then it can be, you know, they can have it go to the commissioners, and the commissioners make the final, maybe if to get it approved. So you know, it's just to move things along is what they try to have us do here. It doesn't mean you can't table it, but, you know, normally you just kind of approve or disapprove and move along.
Okay. Mr. Richardson, would you reconsider that, or do you want to?
No, I'd like to table that at the moment.
Okay. Well, we have a motion to table it, and we have a second. We had a discussion.
Chair?
Yes.
Before you do make that motion, I do want to provide a little bit of clarity. Mr. Richardson, you said push it to July, is that correct?
Or the next meeting, I'm sorry.
Next meeting, okay. Okay. And I do also want to mention that in today's public hearing, we did hear support and opposition for both. We would not be required to hear public, we would not be required to have a public hearing. It would be a public meeting, no support, opposition. It is the pleasure of the board to make that determination, but I wanted to be clear that with this meeting, we have fulfilled the state and our code requirements for a public hearing. Now, of course, Board of Commissioners level, it would be open to that public hearing, support and opposition by the public, but for the sake of Zoning Advisory Board, we would not be required to have that public hearing.
Okay, understood.
Okay. Okay. Well, we have a motion, and we have a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 2-1.
VR 2402, Liberty Communities of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a variance for properties located at 883 Upper Woolsey Road and 256 Little Road in land lots 220 and 221 of the 6th District. The property consists of 80.09 plus or minus acres, and the request is for relief from the development standards of the Highway Corridor Overlay District and stream buffer requirements. District 5, presented by Kent Atlanta, Planner 3.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to move staff's recommendations of approval for the portion of roads B&F as indicated, and denial for the applicant's request for exemption from Highway Corridor Overlay District.
Okay, wait. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Have a second by Mr. Richard. Enter discussion.
I just want to clarify, make sure I heard correctly. So just exactly what they had proposed, the staff had proposed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Have a motion. Have a second. All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. All right. I think that concludes our cases tonight. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Second, Mr. Beam.
Yeah.
This meeting is now adjourned.